More than a year into the war in Gaza, and Turkish President Erdogan has repeatedly called Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu a war criminal and vowed to do everything in his power to stop him.
İsrail, biz de seni savaş suçlusu olarak dünyaya ilan edeceğiz.
So we have to ask, why is Turkey still conducting trade with Israel? Erdogan has been relentless in his condemnation of Israel's attacks.
Dünya bir hastanın, bir manyağın, bir psikopatın, Netanyahu denilen kanla beslenen vampirin barbarlığını izliyor.
This ignited a war of words between Turkish and Israeli officials, with Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz being especially combative.
ארדואן זה היה תלוי בו, הוא הורס את כל טורקיה.
Katz frequently invokes Turkey's role in the Armenian genocide, which is funny because Israel doesn't actually recognize the Armenian genocide. But this back and forth is really just political theater. Let's look at the reality. On May 2nd, Turkey announced a total trade ban on Israel, citing Israel's actions in Gaza.
İsrail'e karşı somut tedbirler alan tek devletiz.
But it was quickly apparent that this ban hadn't actually been implemented.
Konuşmalar, mikrofonda söylenenler güzel ama icraata baktığımızda gerekli adımlar atılmıyor.
Turkey's top exports to Israel include steel, iron, concrete, and oil. The oil Turkey sends to Israel comes from Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is probably Turkey's closest ally. It's also a very close ally of Israel. Israel supplies more than 70% of Azerbaijan's weapons, while Azerbaijan supplies almost half of Israel's oil. And the ties between Israel and Azerbaijan run deep. Israeli officials were even among the first to tour ethnically cleansed parts of Nagorno-Karabakh after the 2020 war. And the support for Israel and Azerbaijan isn't just at a government level.
İsrail-Filistin münaqişəsində kim haqlıdır sizcə və niyə?
İşğal etməyinə baxmayaraq, İsrail bizim həqiqətən müttəfiqimizdir və o İsrailin Azərbaycana verdiyi dəstək danılmazdır.
Mən İsrail'im.
Nəyə görə?
O gözəldir, ona görə.
Turkey's continued facilitation of Azerbaijani oil shipments to Israel has sparked outrage and protests within Turkey. We spoke with members of Filistin Için Bin Genç, or 1,000 Youth for Palestine, a student-led group that's been researching and protesting Turkey's ongoing trade with Israel, with a special focus on the role of Azerbaijani oil.
Azerbaycan devletine ait Turkish şirketi her gün İsrail'e 44 bin varil petrol göndererek işgalcilere yakıt sağlarken Türkiye hükümeti bu kanlı ortaklığın aracısı konumunda.
Did you really believe Turkey could cut trade with Israel?
Initially, it seemed like Turkey had truly stopped trading with Israel.
Because according to the data from the Turkish Statistical Institute, the percentages had decreased. But then we noticed that ships departing from different cities in Turkey were going to Israel through other countries.
When the government announced trade restrictions to Israel, these companies were mostly facilitating the trade via nearby third countries such as Greece, Slovakia, or Egypt. But soon they realized that this increased their shipping fees too much.
And when we look at the Turkish statistical data, we realize that the trade with Palestine, or rather the percentage of goods supposedly being sent to Palestine, had increased. And we noticed that this increase happened right after Turkey announced they had cut trade with Israel.
In the months following the supposed trade ban, Turkish government records showed that trade between Turkey and Israel dropped to almost zero. But at the same time, this data shows that Turkish exports to Palestine grew by over 1,000%. It's clear that Turkey's disguising its ongoing trade with Israel by routing goods through other countries like Greece and by labeling goods as being destined for Palestine instead of Israel. That's not to say that Turkey's trade with Israel hasn't slowed. According to Turkish government records, in January, Turkey exported over $31 million of plastic to Israel. Plastic exports to Palestine only totaled $20,000. But in August, these records showed that plastic exports to Palestine jumped to over $12 million, while plastic exports to Israel dropped to zero. Since we can very safely assume that Turkey's hiding these plastic exports to Israel by claiming they're for Palestine, there's still a decrease of 61%. But let's look at steel, obviously a very important commodity in wartime. Before the embargo, Turkey supplied nearly 2/3 of Israel's steel. In January, Turkish government records show that Turkey exported over $27 million in steel to Israel, with none going to Palestine. But in August, allegedly, Turkey had shipped over $20 million worth of steel to Palestine, with none going to Israel. It's pretty clear where that steel went. Not only has Turkey continued trade with Israel in secret, it's also obstructing humanitarian efforts aimed at helping Gaza. In a further contradiction to its public stance, Turkey blocked 2 ships intended to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza from leaving its ports.
Hiçbir hukuki dayanağı olmamasına rağmen maalesef yetkililer bu geminin çıkmasına izin vermiyor.
A few opposition politicians have spoken out against Turkey's ongoing trade with Israel, but not many.
Bırakın Filistin'e gıda yardımını, insani yardımı ulaştırmayı, biz harıl harıl İsrail'le ticarete devam edip, ihracatımızı devam ettirip, İsrail'in Müslümanlar giremesin diye Mescid-i Aksa'nın etrafını çevirdiği dikenli telleri Türkiye'den İsrail'e biz gönderiyoruz.
He's not exaggerating for effect. Turkey is literally exporting barbed wire to Israel while claiming it's going to Palestine.
Filistin'de de bizim sayemizde, iktidarınız sayesinde kan akıyor.
At the Saha Expo, a defense fair in Istanbul, organized by drone manufacturer Bayraktar and supported by the Turkish government, British defense firm BAE Systems had a notable presence. BAE Systems, the UK's largest defense firm, has been a key supplier of F-35 aircraft parts to Israel.
Dışişleri Bakanı Hakan Fidan, İstanbul'da düzenlenen Saha Expo fuarını ziyaret etti, bir yurttaşın İsrail tepkisiyle karşılaştı.
Bakan Bey, bir sorum olacaktı. Bu savunma sanayi fuarında biyoteknolojinin ne işi var acaba?
Mr. Foreign Minister apparently couldn't muster an answer. I should mention that Bayraktar, long a partner of the Turkish government, was a gold-level sponsor at the recent Azerbaijan International Defense Expo. Israeli state-owned defense firm IAI co-sponsored the event.
I would like to thank our gold sponsors, Baykar and Israel Aerospace Industries.
All of this to say that Turkey's so-called trade ban with Israel is nothing but a charade. While Erdogan blathers about Israeli war crimes and pretends to be Palestine's champion, his government is busy finding new ways to keep the cash flowing.
Ey Amerikan devleti! Bu kan senin eline de bulaşmıştır. Bu soykırımdan sen de en az İsrail kadar sorumlusun.
I'm American, and no country has more of a hand in Israel's war crimes than my own. But while the American government is arming Israel to the teeth, providing diplomatic cover, and turning an absolute blind eye to Israeli war crimes, they're not saying things like,
İsrail devleti Netanyahu isimli bir Hitler özentisinin idaresinde sadece son 51 haftada insanlığa karşı tüm suçları pervasızca işlemiştir.
It's just deeply hypocritical for Turkey to condemn Israel while literally helping to fuel its attacks.
Is Azerbaijan and Turkey more crucial to Israel than its major Western arms suppliers? Absolutely not. But to provide energy and logistics support to an imperial power, relentlessly bombing innocent civilians and using these imports to strengthen its occupation with foreign backing is an ethical and moral problem that goes far beyond profit. We say that we must isolate Israel. We must put pressure on our governments to understand that Israel can only be stopped by being isolated.